Why did ancient humans never say, I love you? You're standing next to the person you're about to marry. Your parents picked them. You've spoken maybe a dozen words to each other in your entire life, and in a few minutes, you're going to spend the rest of your life with them. Here's the part that should stop you cold. Nobody in that room is going to say, I love you. Not today, not at the wedding, maybe not ever. And nobody thinks that's strange, because for most of human history, in most of the world, romantic love had almost nothing to do with marriage. So what were they doing instead? Were ancient people just incapable of love? Cold? Broken somehow? Or is the real answer something much stranger and much more human than we've been told? Let's start with the myth. You've probably heard some version of this. Ancient people didn't fall in love because life was too hard, too short, too brutal for something as soft as romance. Survival didn't leave room for feelings. That's almost completely wrong. Ancient texts are drowning in love. Sumerian love poetry from 4,000 years ago is startlingly intimate. Egyptian love songs talk about longing, jealousy, obsession, the exact same emotional chaos teenagers feel today. The Roman poet Catullus wrote some of the most desperate, heartbroken love poetry ever put on paper about a woman he was never legally allowed to marry. So people absolutely felt love, powerfully. What they didn't do, almost anywhere, for most of history, was build marriage around it. Here's where it gets interesting. Marriage, for the overwhelming majority of human history, wasn't a relationship. It was a transaction, a treaty between two families. In ancient Rome, marriage merged property, secured alliances, and produced legal heirs. In ancient China, marriages were arranged by parents using matchmakers, sometimes finalized before the bride and groom had ever spoken a single word to each other. In medieval Europe, aristocratic marriages were literally foreign policy. Kingdoms married kingdoms, and the two actual humans involved were almost an afterthought. Love wasn't the goal of marriage. Love, if it happened at all, was a lucky bonus that showed up after the contract was already signed. And this is the part that really unsettles people. The concept we now treat as the entire point of marriage, find your soulmate, marry for love, is, historically speaking, almost brand new. Historians who study the topic point to a specific and surprisingly recent shift. The idea of marrying primarily for romantic love didn't become the dominant norm in the Western world until roughly the 18th century, tangled up with the rise of the middle class, personal property, and a new philosophical obsession with individual choice. Before that, for thousands of years, across nearly every major civilization, love was treated as something dangerous. Not sweet, dangerous. The Greeks had a specific word for overwhelming romantic obsession: eros. And they didn't celebrate it as the ideal, they warned about it. Uncontrolled, passionate love was viewed as a kind of madness, something that could wreck families, destroy alliances, and make people behave irrationally. You wanted a stable household, not a hurricane. So if love wasn't the foundation of marriage, what was? The answer is almost mathematical. Marriage was insurance. It combined labor, land, and protection in a world with no banks, no safety nets, no retirement plans. A household needed a partnership that worked, someone to farm, someone to run the home, children to carry on the name and care for you in old age. Love was a wonderful extra. It was never the requirement. And here's the twist that changes everything. Even without romantic love as the starting point, ancient couples still formed real, deep bonds. Anthropologists studying letters, tomb inscriptions, and personal writings from across the ancient world keep finding the same thing. Husbands and wives who built genuine affection, loyalty, even devotion, not because they started in love, but because they grew into it. One of the most famous Roman tomb inscriptions, written by a grieving husband, describes decades of partnership, gratitude, and grief that sound remarkably close to what we'd call love today. They just never called it that going in. So maybe the real difference between us and them isn't that they felt less. Maybe it's that they built love after the commitment, instead of demanding it before. And that raises the question that should really get under your skin. If romantic love wasn't the foundation of marriage for almost all of human history, where did the idea even come from? Why did an entire species suddenly decide, only a few hundred years ago, that marrying a stranger your parents chose was wrong, and marrying the one was right? The answer takes us somewhere you wouldn't expect. Not to ancient Rome, not to Greece, but to a handful of medieval French courts, where a small group of poets and nobles quietly invented an idea so powerful, it eventually rewired how billions of people would choose who to spend their lives with. And that story starts with a concept historians call courtly love, a game so strange, so theatrical, and so secretly subversive that it was never even supposed to involve marriage at all.